our next rock star social media expert, somebody who is doing tons to change images and help so many people across the country. This lady is just absolutely a ball of energy, has a huge heart, and gets nothing better than helping people take that next step or help get them out of their doldrums. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about Kimmy Seltzer from the Charisma Quotient podcast. She is just an amazing individual. So Kimmy, we're so honored for you to be here on Social Media Day 2022. How are you doing?
Oh my God, what an introduction. You made me sound better than I am, but I love it.
I am available to announce you before you walk into rooms.
Seriously, I'm going to have you MC all my stuff, by the way. Oh, it's so good to be here.
It's good to have you here too. Now, why don't you take a second here for those that are watching this, listening to this, kind of backtrack, unpack what I just said, kind of what you focus on and your superpower is.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So again, my name is Kimmy Seltzer, and I mean, my official titles, I'll start with that, is authentic dating strategist. I'm a confidence therapist and an image expert. And what does all that mean? It's a mouthful to say that I have a holistic approach in helping people look and feel their best so they attract what they want. And that's both in love and business. And sometimes we separate the two, but really at the end of the day, all the skills that I work on in helping people build confidence, whether it's on camera and social media or, online profile, like it's all about how we market ourselves. And that kind of determines, who you attract into your life.
Totally does. And in this crazy world that we've been in, especially we were just joking about how we hadn't seen each other in person since prior to COVID kicking off, it has become such a crazy online world of swipe right? Kind of swipe left, swipe right. And that is very common in social media marketing aspect, whether it's business or your personal life. What are some things that when you're talking with somebody, what are the things you're looking at? You're like, you need to work on this. What are some of the common things that you see people need to work on?
In terms of social media specifically?
Well, so not just social media, what they're doing, maybe what they're putting out there. Like, what's the thing that makes you cringe the most? This is probably a good thing. Oh, don't do that.
Oh my God, is it only one thing I have to say? No, just kidding. Well, I'll start with my Charisma Quotient because I think it kind of answers the question in 3 different ways. And yes, it's the name of my podcast, but it's the formula and the foundation in which I help people. And there's kind of 3 pillars within Charisma Quotient. I love the word charisma because it's used, well, if you look at the definition, it's a magnetism that just draws people to you, right? And that's what becomes so attractive, whether you're online, offline. And the 3 pillars are, first is your style intelligence. So what that is your body language, the way you dress, your image, your first impressions, how you market yourself. So one of the big mistakes that I see people make in your style intelligence is that there is no style intelligence, right? Like I think so many times, especially in the business world, we're focused on content and creation that we forget about the marketability factor. And to be honest, you can do all this work in your business and have this amazing back end stuff going on. But if your image isn't there or it's incongruent with your brand and who you are, people might miss you, or if it's incongruent, they might have like a different idea of who you are. And so like an example of that is I remember there was a woman that I have worked with, and she's amazing. Like she's in the coaching space. She's amazing. And like her content's awesome and she helps so many people. But like when you see her online presence, you would never know that because she usually shows up disheveled and like wearing blah colors, and she doesn't demand authority with the colors and the outfits that she wears. So in that area, that's one big mistake. Do you want me to go on to the other 2 pillars?
I love it. Let's do it. Okay. No, we'll come back with questions in a second, but that makes a lot of sense there. You've got to, you've got your message has to match up with what you're putting out, basically.
Well, yeah. And if you look at the studies now of first impressions, do you know it only takes 7 seconds to make a first impression? And I would argue it's probably even quicker, to be honest, like in social media and we're swiping. It used to be 30 seconds 2 years ago. So it shows you how fast we're making judgments and assumptions. All right. The second category is emotional intelligence. And this is how we express ourselves. Now, this is really important, believe it or not, in social media. Like you're hearing all this buzzword of vulnerability and authenticity. authenticity out there, right? And what I think people are getting really savvy to is, people are liking and wanting to do business with people who they connect with. And again, a big mistake there that I see a lot of people make is that, you might have a script and you might have all these like plans and agendas that you want to, get out there and messaging. But if people don't feel you and they don't like you, they won't do business with you, or they won't date you, or they won't feel the chemistry, right? So it's really important as you're putting out messages out there that you're using feelings, you're using like that genuine authenticity to connect with people. And storytelling is one of the biggest things that I tell people to do. Okay, so that's the second area. And then I would say the third area is social intelligence, and that's how we manage interpersonal relationships. Now, in the dating world, this relates to flirting, of course, but I believe that flirting should be done everywhere and anywhere. So even in social media and online, as you're doing videos and whatnot, flirt with your audience and have fun, have some playfulness and energy to you, because again, that likability factor is so huge. It's not even what you say is as important as how people feel when they're around you.
I love it. And that's nobody wants to work with or date or connect with anybody. It sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 wah. Or the Debbie Downer. Oh God, life is so bad. Stuff like that. We have enough of that in the news and the media and everything else going on. You really have to show up on it. You got to bring the noise, bring the energy, and I think not be afraid to be yourself a little bit, huh?
Well, absolutely. And this is evidenced by, look at TikTok, look at how much it's grown. And some of the videos that you see is about nothing. And those are the ones that are going viral. Why? Because people are feeling something from whatever that video is showing. So I think we could learn from that, even, with the other platforms and the way that we convey messages is, again, like if you just share stories and you come from your heart and you have a good image, like that's half the battle. And then from there, people will start following you and you have the know, like, and trust factor later on.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's a matter of just getting out there. And what would you say to those out there like, oh my God, I don't want to be on camera, or I'm scared of imposter syndrome. I know two of those are kind of different, but I think one leads into being a big responsibility for the second one too, huh?
Yes. And, actually there's a lot of parallels with dating and what you just asked too, because often we get so caught up in our heads and we worry about, what to say and how we're coming across versus just being present and going out there and practicing or just doing it. I'll share a personal story. See, I'm showing vulnerability and sharing a story. See how this plays out. No, but I remember when I was first starting out, and this was really before social media got huge. I was learning how to do marketing online. Now I come from a theater background, so I was used to being on stage and interacting with people, but I was not used to staring into a dot and having no feedback. So I remember the first time the camera went on, I froze. And here I am. I even had background in acting, but and theater, but it was a totally different beast. And so I almost wanted to give up. And there was another marketer, and he was kind of my mentor that really helped me through it. And I remember the only way that I would really learn is to just do it over and over and over, And so he would say, do it again, do it again. I remember him in my head, do it again. And then, and I would flub up. And every time I flub up, but the flub ups actually became funny. Yep. And then I started owning some of the flub ups, and so that's the other, I guess, tip that I would say is don't forget about laughing, through it all. And if you flub up, own it, because most likely everybody watching has experienced the same thing and you'll be, again, more relatable. But the name of the game is practice and really getting out of your head and just doing it.
I love that. That is another thing we have in common, because I've got theater background too, in college and high school, stuff like that. It is a different thing when you're transitioning instead of a live audience. You have that, that laugh, the giggles from the audience, this feedback of you're trying to be something, or the emotional the energy of a crowd feeds into it. Facing into a Logitech webcam right now, not a lot of emotion if you're doing it solo a lot of times. But I agree. I think people identify with those that aren't the perfect robots. You know what I mean? When yeah, I get that a lot. People say, Scott, you laugh at yourself, you laugh at your own jokes, and we kind of find that humorous sometimes. I'm like, because I'm just a normal guy. You either like me or you don't like me.
Yeah.
I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm fine with that, you know?
Well, I love what you just said too, because it relates to, again, relationships and what we're saying in social media is that I think that's why a lot of times you might get in your head is because you're thinking so much about what that other person is thinking of you, or in this case, your audience. And what happens with that is it brings you out of the presence. And when you're out of the presence, you're disconnected. Right. So like whether you're meeting somebody for the first time in a networking situation, a date, or even with an audience, the more present you get and just focus on delivering your message and really try to connect with the audience, that's when the magic starts happening and it just kind of flows.
That's so true. That's so true. We've seen that in a variety of other things. I was just thinking about some of our past presidents, like Bill Clinton, whether you like him or not, he was always said that he was always present when he was talking to you. And you could sense it, you could feel it. And that's what part of the things that made him very popular, good or bad, it made him popular because he's always in the moment.
Oh my God, you made me think of another tip around all of this as we're talking about presentation is body language. As I said, that kind of is in the first pillar of style intelligence, and it's often discounted. But you know, the truth is 93% of communication is nonverbal. So what you say sometimes is not even as important as how you show up. And so there are certain charismatic body language, you know, things that you can work on, such as making eye contact right now into the camera so that you're looking, to use your hands. Actually, most leaders talk with their hands. So like you reminded me of that of Bill Clinton. He was so good at using his hand as he talked, and smiling, you know, like smiling is so important as you're making points. And again, that energy will carry through.
Let's flip it the opposite side. Let's flip it on its head right now. What do you do for those folks that are out there, they're doing well, they're feeling great about their message, they're in a groove, and suddenly, we get a troll that shows up. Somebody that is either close to them or they send an email or a post. Oh, that's stupid. You're an idiot. You don't know. I just had this happen to one of my students the other day. She was posted something on a post and did great in a group. And then suddenly 12 people jumped on her. I'm like, you didn't do anything wrong. You got to realize that these 12 people I know, they're not doing anything for the most part. And so how do you help folks kind of overcome that negativity that comes when the minorities are jumping in and you know, saying ugly things and just being trolls?
Well, first of all, I tell people to celebrate. Like you should be like, yay, I have trolls. That means you've made it.
That's right. I love it.
Yeah, like flip the script on that. Like and again, like dating, to me, like when people ghost you or people rat on you and what, there's no such thing as rejection. It's only experience. And the bigger you get, the more problems you'll have and the more haters that go with it. I mean, and you know this, I mean, Scott, like, so definitely celebrate into it. It takes some time to get used to celebrating that people don't like you. But what it also says is that you have an opinion. And, you know, you can't be everyone's friend, just like in real life. You can't get everyone to like you and be a people pleaser to be successful. You have to have an opinion and a character that people who like you will then want to do business with you. So actually, your haters are not your buyers. So say, au revoir, goodbye.
Block, bye-bye, unsubscribe.
You, and thank you for, you know, not wasting my time on a sales call because you are not my people.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. What's one of the biggest things that because with what you are doing, very interactive, very hands-on, I know that you will fly across the country or fly to folks to help them, give them like a closet makeover, a personal makeover, kind of be out holding their hand. You really had to go through some different things the last couple of years with everything kind of being locked down too.
Oh my God, yeah.
And a pivot. What was one of the things you had to kind of adapt to more so than anything else?
I remember when this all first went down. I think you and I even had a conversation about this.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck am I going to do? Like, how am I going to help people date, feel good about their image when no one's going out? You know, like it was a big, I hate this word because everyone used it, but it was true, a big pivot for me to pull in and think about, all right, well, the way I served people before isn't what people need now. So what is it that people need now, and how can I serve them? Right. And so that was like the first question I asked. And I just remember taking a lot of time just going through it with people and talking to a lot of people and seeing where they were at and being okay with the downtime. And what I realized and discovered, there were a lot of wins that came out of it. Sometimes when adversity are gifts in disguise, but when you're going through, you don't see it until you get through it and you're like, oh, there it is. So for me, the gift is that I could serve so many more people in a really efficient amount of time and energy, helping people virtually. So I just developed a lot of virtual dating programs, virtual image programs. I do virtual makeovers. I did it before, but then I started doing more and in ways that I could incorporate it into my like higher ticket coaching programs. And I started like mixing men and women and doing speed dating online and doing like all these different things. And Scott, you were definitely one of those people who like really influenced me. I gotta like hand it to you, because like I remember you saying you should do a speed dating event, and I love that idea. And it gave me kind of that spark and like idea of, wait a second, I could be doing some of the games that I did in person, and like the improv games that I normally do, I could do it online, because now everyone's bored, everyone's looking to connect. So I think now that it's, now I don't even want to say post-pandemic, but just now that it's a different world and people are getting back out there, it's like, how can now I integrate what I did before and during this time? And so now I'm doing like a hybrid, like for instance, right now I'm doing a hybrid program that combines a 6-week coaching class that's on Zoom, and we're culminating into a live retreat. So that is an example of like, how now I'm just kind of combining forces, because I think even the virtual stuff is here to stay. It doesn't matter. Like, I think we've all learned that. I don't know if you found the same thing.
Well, we've been doing virtual 5 years before COVID kicked in, going back to 2015.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It didn't affect us that much when it comes to how we teach and stuff like that. But yeah, we didn't have a mastermind for 2 years for the most part. I didn't go out and speak in front of audiences much. We had to really reincorporate how we got out in front of folks in a lot of cases. So, and that's why I think the podcast is so important. And then really doubling down. Like I used to speak, once a month, twice a month in front of different real estate clubs. So one thing I did is I went in, I said, okay, let's pull the top 40 markets where our audience is at, from seeing like YouTube analytics and Vimeo analytics, and where our audience is from social media. So then we went and did basically a webinar. We did 40 cities in like 2 months. On Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, we highlighted a different city and talked about that market and how it was being impacted. And it was a lot of work, a lot of one-way communication. But we look back, we had a lot of people opt in off of those, from just saying, hey, we're here to help you with your, and it might be one person that showed up live for the webinar, but I was just looking at the videos. We'd have 2,500, 3,000 views a year later from taking the time to spend it on those 40, hour-long videos for the most part.
Oh my God. Yes. That you bring up such a good point. And I was thinking about that for my podcast too. Like, it allowed us to kind of slow down, to really hone in on doing one thing and more repetition and consistency. Because that is also the name of the game, is the more consistent you are, the more focused you are, and the more your audience comes. So that's really true. I also had a lot of fun interviewing a lot of people during that time, because it was another way of connecting with people on the podcast. So for sure that happened.
Now, are you using Amazon Live for while or still are doing that? Because that's not something that anybody talks about a lot, but I think it is such an amazing niche out there. Can you talk a little bit how are you using that and leveraging that?
Yeah, that was another thing that came. I was really lucky. I was approached by a production company here in LA called Sway TV, and they were trying this kind of new thing where Amazon Live became a new platform. And he's like, do you want to come and do a love show? through Amazon Live. And so I called it Kimmy's Love Hub. And it was actually really successful. But then Amazon changed its rules and they really were focused on like selling products more. So mine was more content heavy than selling, even though I sold some like clothes of Amazon, that kind of thing. But it allowed for more exposure, great content. I put it on YouTube. And actually, I just talked to the producer yesterday and he said, he wants to like introduce segments again. So I may go back to that because I do think it's important to just keep moving and looking at different platforms in ways that, you know, are ones that are organic reach, because some of them are harder now these days in reaching people.
Yeah, the algorithms are constantly changing and things are adding and people are moving.
Yes.
You know, I was just talking with somebody earlier about TikTok, and they were talking about how, yes, you now have a 35 to 65 audience on there, which is kind of my ideal audience. Beforehand, it was all just tweens, you know what I mean? 20 and younger.
I know. So are you doing TikTok more?
No, I need to.
Yes, you do.
That's my big learn from Social Media Day 2022. It's like, I need to start doing that. I've just got to figure out, because it's a different format than, because I'm usually doing so much long content with webinars and podcasts.
That's my pain too.
Yeah, exactly. Because I can't speak in a minute or two or short, short.
So again, it goes back to that practice thing. I had to really practice the 1 minute thing. Well, first it was 30 seconds for the reels, and then they started expanding to the 1 minute. I think you even have longer now on TikTok, but like, it's hard, but it's also really good practice to just get out sound bites, that are really impactful. And again, it could be just something goofy and fun. It's still about, this goes back to the original thing that I was saying. It's about if people like you. Again, like, don't focus so much on the content as much as, and you are such a goofball in a great way and a loving way. You know that I love you. And I think you could do so many fun things on there. So I have to also like embrace that, because I give very like specific dating tips and that kind of thing. But, just that aspect of fun is for sure important.
Right. Now, do you see a lot of folks out there that, when you decide to be an entrepreneur, when you really decide to use social media to market yourself more than just engaging with friends and family and being kind of silly, it does. And I know it paid off for me to hire somebody to come and give me an audit, give me a no holds barred, no blowing smoke up my ass. Hey, here's what you need to work on. Here's what you need to focus on in a couple fashions. But it takes time. And that's kind of, you do that for a lot of folks on the personal line there, but are you also doing it for business?
Yeah. And often, sometimes both, like sometimes people will come to me for that with dating, and then they realize, wow, like this could really change the way that my business life is too. And again, it's all intertwined. So much of what we're talking about is confidence. So much is what we're talking about is marketing ourselves, right? So much of what we're talking about is an energy and how we express ourselves. And that translates across the board, no matter if it's dating or business.
That's so true out there. You got to be confident. Sometimes, like I said, speaking to a camera or dealing with the negativity in some cases, just got to kind of spin it off and just flow with it and realize you're not going to be expert. One of the biggest lessons I ever learned was I reach out to banks on a regular basis with dollar for dollars. The first time I did, I practiced for an hour in front of the camera or in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
And then I made 54 phone calls and got 53 no's and like hangups before I got my first yes. And I like, okay, that yes was worth a lot of money. So I was like, okay, this can make it happen. But that's every time I made a phone call, I got better. Every time you post, every time you reach out, every time you ask somebody to date or something like that, you're going to get better at what you do.
I just want to highlight what you said. That's so important, is that sometimes quality is better than quantity. And I think, we get caught up in the numbers and the likes and the downloads and all that. But to your point, if you have, 200 followers who are dedicated, who are money, that they're buyers, that kind of thing, that's way more important than like 1 million followers that don't really care. They're just like liking it because everyone else is, or they don't buy from you, that kind of thing. So that's important.
Or like in Elon's case, 30% are fake bots on Twitter. Yeah. Whether it's 70 million for Kylie Jenner, they're not even real people. You know what I mean?
So true. So true.
What is your big goal? What's one big thing you're focused on the second half of 2022 here for your social media marketing?
For my social media marketing, I definitely want to build up my TikTok as well. Like that's definitely on the horizon. I may go back to the Amazon Live. I really want to look at the intentionality of also the content that I put out as well, because while I think my tips are solid in ways of like what I'm delivering, I don't have enough strategy, I think, behind it. So I really want to work on the strategy part.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Kimmy, we can sit here and talk forever, but I know you've got a busy schedule there for you. We will have to make a time to get together, have some coffee with whipped cream
yes,
later on via Zoom. You're on the West Coast, I'm in Texas, but hey, we got to meet up at some point, whether it's are you heading to any events later this year as well?
Yeah, please. So I have my big retreat coming up in July. It's called Spark Your Sexy. So it's for women who are trying to get into their sexy confidence, and I have bachelors coming in to help them flirt. We're going shopping. It's going to be great. And then I actually have a TEDx talk coming up in September. So I'm super excited about that. And I'll be definitely preparing for that. Talk about short content. OMG. Like, how am I going to deliver a talk in 8 to 10 minutes? I don't know, but I'm up for the challenge.
I'm sure you'll knock it out of the park there for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. What's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Yeah, well, you can go, I mean, and I have a free gift for your listeners. Sure. It relates to the style piece, just as if people are wanting to look at their body type and stuff, you can go to my website. It's kimmyseltzer.com, KIMMY Seltzer, like the water.com. And if you just do /style, it'll get you to my style guides. I have one for men, one for women. If you want to figure out what body type you are, and then the guide goes over what clothes flatter your figure so that you can start working on your image online. I
love it. I love it. It's always good to look good. Always good to have a guide and a professional like yourself watching out for us. Thanks, Kimmy.
Thanks, God. I'll see you in coffee.
Sounds good.